But I think the biggest brush with process was when I built an e-commerce store in Indonesia, because that's what you do when you're 25.
Random.
The idea of staying in a stable job scared me more than leaving.
It took me a very long time to get my name out in the I mean, well, comparatively not long, because I've just been here for 19 months.
Well, I was going to say, you've only been here for 19 months, but not that very long. Hello and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss. Today I am excited to be joined by Sabrina Dennis, who is the CEO of First Class Legacy. Welcome, Sabrina. Thank you for joining me.
Hi. No worries. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. If you are new here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do that first so that you are the first thing to know and you get notifications when I release a new video. And if you want to take part in She's the Boss, drop me an email, Daniela@she'sthebossinternational.com. So let's get started. Tell us about First Class Legacy. What is it and what does your role within it comprise of?
Well, First Class Legacy is a consultancy. We are specialist thought leaders in behaviour change, and we devise strategies in how to engage new and diverse communities, meaning that we help organisations who have an issue reaching those deemed hard to reach. We do that through consultancy, events, training, new media, so videos, digital media, websites, stuff like that. That's what we do. My role as CEO is vast. I do so many things, but more specifically, it's a lot of the strategic stuff. So I'm always looking at ways to make new relationships with other organisations and other services out there who may need our services. And I'm also responsible for a lot of the day-to-day running of the company. So a lot of the financial reports, all the management reports that need to be created for our board, and also just monitoring our staff and our suppliers as well. So I'm quite a busy person sometimes.
So for those of you who are watching, you probably wouldn't know, but Sabrina is one of my clients. And I just want to say I love how you just delivered your...
Did I do it well?
Excellent.
Thank you.
And I also know that your First Class Legacy you run in conjunction with your husband. Now, I think
Yes.
you're... I can't remember, but I feel like you might be the first person that I've interviewed who is in business with a husband or a partner. If I'm wrong, sorry, but you're the first one that I know and have seen in action.
Okay.
How did it come about for you to be working with your husband, number one, and what kind of challenges has that presented?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually.
Start with the hardest ones.
The hardest one. They're both hard. No, I kind of got into First Class almost, I would say, accidentally on purpose. So First Class has been around for a very, very long time. First Class was called, before it was First Class Legacy, it was called First Class Youth Network. And that was in around 2005. And that was set up as a kind of CIC kind of youth empowerment company with 4 other core members. And then sort of later down the line, so they used to do a lot of outreach and community activities, stuff with young people. We're known as like a youth organisation back then. I was not involved at all at that time. I was busy having the children and just doing home studying, stuff like that. But then fast forward to about 2011 and there was a change in government. So back then, First Class Youth was heavily reliant upon funding. It was heavily reliant upon other donations and gifts in kind from other groups of people. And then when that changed, when the government changed, the funding went. Organisations that we worked with before, like councils and sort of those, what are they called, quangos, those departments that they just develop because they've got a bit of money. We worked a lot with those quangos, and actually overnight they kind of disappeared. So it meant that we went through a hard time, and it taught me a lesson. It taught me to be more involved in actually what Nathan was doing at the time, because I was quite quiet. I'd attend events and stuff like that and just be involved in stuff like that. Never really got into the business, never really understood the strategy. the purpose of the company and the vision of what they wanted to create and do in the future. And it wasn't future proof. They did no kind of analysis as to see how this change of government would affect the company. So actually, it meant that we lost basically the company. We had to make staff redundant. At the time, there was 2 full-time staff and a couple of part-time staff and volunteers who were all very much hands-on in the company. Had to shut it down, come out of the office, bring everything in that was in sort of 3 office spaces into our garage, and try and just sort of get to understand what had happened. It taught me a lot. I had to really ask some serious questions and say, well, what was it? What were you doing? And I actually apologized to Nathan sort of later down the line, probably 2015 when we're looking to start again, to say that I apologized for not actually taking enough of an interest, because I think from an outside viewpoint looking in, I could have given a bit of advice, or I could have said, oh guys, are you looking at what's happening on the landscape? Are you prepared for these changes? Because they weren't. They were just young, kind of just going through it, doing amazing stuff and getting caught up in the delivery, but not thinking on the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say the hardest part of the journey has been finding how I fit in to this, and kind of finding out how I can add value, because for a very long time, first class legacy, as we re-emerged in 2015, was very much Nathan Dennis and not first class legacy. So that was quite a challenge in itself, to sort of come in as partner in this new organization and then eventually CEO, and turn it around so that people understand its first class legacy and that Nathan is a part of it, but you might not always interact with Nathan. You might interact with other suppliers and other staff members. You might interact with me, and what that means for the company. So that's been the biggest challenge, I think. I've been my biggest challenge in getting my own pride and sometimes lack of self-confidence out of the way. But along the journey, you kind of just keep learning, you keep applying yourself, and you just keep going. So it's been a accidentally but on purpose, because now I'm not going anywhere.
No, I like that. So obviously I know that since you've kind of restarted or re-emerged as first class legacy, is probably a better way of saying it, that you guys have really gone from strength to strength and the business has really developed. How what was your initial plan of action when you kind of came into when you decided to restart as first class legacy and you was going to be in the business? Did you have a specific goal in mind of what you personally wanted to bring to the organization and a strategy of doing that?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, and I made it clear to Nathan that I just can't allow it to, I can't allow this mistakes of the past to kind of be repeated again, because this time there was so much more riding on it, not just for us as individuals, but family and everything else that you do separately. So my goal initially was just to bring a lot of order, a lot of processes, a lot of systems. My thing is project management. I've always done that, but to bring that into a company that's kind of got its own kind of machinery going on was a big challenge. But it's kind of, now we're kind of in a place where all of those processes and procedures are in place with your help, thankfully. But yeah, my original goal and plan was to just bring order. There was no plan. There was a kind of Nathan's vision, and he's a very visionary kind of person. So he's always got a new idea and it's just go and do the idea. But okay, well, how do we do that? What does it look like? Who are we going to need? What is that going to cost? And outside of me doing it or outside of him doing it, is this something that someone else can pick up and carry on without us? Mm-hmm. So overall, my end goal is not to kind of completely remove myself from the company, but should the case require it to happen, that the company can carry on because things are in place to do so. So that's been my biggest challenge. And so far, a real big success. We've got so many different processes and procedures in place, and we are always now looking at ways of developing them further and making them so that they're so robust. We're talking this morning, actually, we had a Monday meeting, just the two of us, and we were just looking at all the actions and activities that we've got to complete, and we just put them into that quadrant, that time management quadrant of important, urgent, important, not urgent, etc., etc. And it just made things so much quicker, so much easier. And that's the kind of stuff that, even though we're doing it with us as the leaders in the business, down the line with suppliers and with staff members, they also will be trained on how to do the same thing. So it just runs throughout the company, and everybody's on board with how we develop things. But yeah, that's more or less how my job at the moment, which is, I think, it feels like it's never ending sometimes.
I don't want to labor too much on you and Nathan, because I also want to speak on you as well. But just finally, before I close that chapter, two questions. The first question: prior to you joining the business, when Nathan was running it previously, you said obviously you weren't necessarily as heavily involved as you probably should or could have been. Did you find it difficult? Because as an entrepreneur and somebody running a business, a lot of the time you're heavily in the business. Did you find it difficult kind of having Nathan as a husband that is also an entrepreneur? What was some of the, I'm not going to ask personally, but was that hard? Because I speak to a lot of women who husbands or partners are starting or running businesses, and it can be quite frustrating that all of their time is focused on the business. So did you have that problem? So that's question number one.
Okay.
So stick a pin on that, because I don't want to forget question number two. Question number two is, now that you're working together, how do you balance kind of husband and wife versus CEO and founder? How do you strike that balance and not get on each other's nerves because you're always up in each other's faces?
Up in each other's faces. We so the first question, did I find it hard to be the mom and the wife that was maybe at home raising children while he was out running a business? Yeah, that's an interesting question, because it seems like ages ago now, and it feels like we've always been doing it. And I suppose even I was definitely not doing nothing in terms of first class youth director. I was nowhere to be found. You wouldn't have found me anywhere. But I guess because I was so preoccupied with, at the time, 2 small children. So my eldest daughter at the time, when he was first running, was probably like 1.5, and then a year and a half later came another one. So literally my hands were full with that. I understood I knew what was happening. I knew what they were doing. I would go to the big events and stuff that they would put on, and I would see the benefit of it. I suppose some people would be like, oh, she liked the money, but she didn't want to do the business. It's true. I probably did, but I didn't really think about it, because I was doing all the other stuff. I was studying. I think I was trying to work out. We'd not long gone married. I was trying to work out that we had our own kind of personal goals and objectives, and buying a house and all that kind of grown-up stuff that you got to think about. So I was still, I think, kind of trying to work out what it is that I'm going to do anyway with my life. I felt like at that time, when they were doing First Class Youth Network, I was probably very immature, even though nobody would probably have said it, because I just was going to just do the children and just encourage him to go out and do the stuff that he wanted to do in terms of business. And I didn't really think a lot about it. He was gone. I was used to the level of input. I was used to it. So he'd be gone very early and come back very late. And I'd say, how was your day? And we'd talk about it and stuff. But I was just used to it. And I suppose in hindsight, that is kind of just like sidetrack. It's like, I'm busy doing this, he's busy doing that. And that's not ideal relationship, which brings me on to your second question, because it's in that scenario when all these things are happening, he should have had that safety to say to me, you know what, this business is, just things ain't looking very good, this is what's going to happen. But it was already too late by the time it was happening. We were owing taxman, we had like reports to write for funders. He was having major surgery. Lots of things were happening all at the same time. So it's kind of like a chaotic thing. So that has led us to now because we've got that hindsight, I've got that knowledge, I know. That's led us now to think more, to plan more. He would call them pillars. So we have like 4 key pillars of the week. We have planning day, and we have team meeting, we have a review day, and we have finance day. And that happens every week. And then beyond, so as soon as the children come home from school, which is between 4 and 5, well, 4 and 6, it's a bit of a different gap, but between 4 and 6, work stops, and we don't pick up computers, laptops and stuff like that while the children are around, with the exception of today. I have got 2 in the house because I haven't gone back to school yet. But normally on a normal working day, we have our time, and that's set apart time for business, and then set apart time for relationships, set apart time for family time. And we've been very deliberate with that, because there has been times when all we've done is talk about first class this, first class finance, you know, oh, what about this? Oh, have you done that proposal? And it's like 8 o'clock at night when you want to be watching Netflix, and Nathan might remember the proposal that he's just done. And I'll say to him, I'm not talking about this now, we'll talk about this tomorrow. We've recently changed over the phone. So because it was him originally on his own, coming back into Legacy, started off, and then I said, okay, I'm going to do this with you. His phone number was on everything. So family would phone the business, you know, friends would phone, then a business person might call, and you just like, I don't even know how to answer this call. I don't know what to say. So we've now separated that. The same with emails. We've all got our own. I've got my email. He's got his email. There's an info at email address, and it's just breaking it all up to make it not a one-man band, but to make it a company of a few. So yeah, there's lots of things we do, but one of the most important things is that we just park. There's timeless. It's cut off point, and there's no more. We don't talk about it later.
That's just so hard to do, though. My husband has recently started, and I asked the first question for this reason. My husband recently started his second new business, and obviously I'm doing my own, and I find it really difficult because he wants to talk about his business pretty much all the time. And for me, even though I'll be just, and you've kind of given me something that I probably need to go and take back and speak to him about, because I will do work in the evenings and the weekends. So for him, well, you're working, so I can talk to you about work. Whereas for me, I'm working, but I can multitask. So I can be working and talking to you, or and watching TV, or and cooking, or and doing something else. Whereas he can only do the
one thing at a time.
One thing at a time.
Yeah.
So for me, you can't come in from work and be working on business, because now you're not paying attention to the household. Whereas he was, but you're doing it. Yeah, but I'm still doing everything else I need to do. So this kind of cut-off thing, and we're still struggling with that. So maybe I need to implement some of your recommendations.
I think it's about expectations, because that's the thing, isn't it? Like, we have expectations of each other. So Nathan is very much like that. Nathan has an idea, and he's like, what about this? And I'm like, but I could be blowing out a child's hair, or I could be doing something completely unrelated to business. And he'll just randomly have an idea, and it's like, let's dissect that, let's think about that. And no, let's not think about that now. So here's what you're going to have to do, Nathan. You're going to have to write this down in your book, and this is why we have those days when the children are not here, or at school time, whatever, where we can go through. So we give space for it, but it's setting that expectation in advance. So he knows, it's like, if Nathan says something to me, I'll listen to him, but he knows I'm not going to like go and write that proposal or talk about it properly, because actually I want to watch Game of Thrones now. It's not happening. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah, I think that's our challenge, because we both want to do it after work time.
Yeah.
So I feel bad to stop him because he doesn't stop me. So yeah, maybe it is about that expectations thing. So you've obviously mentioned before, and I know you've got 4 children now, 4 daughters.
Yeah.
Yet you're still excelling and really smashing it with the kind of the growth and the progression of the business. Now, for me, I have 1 daughter, and trying to keep focused, trying to manage the household, trying to remember that it's World Book Day, trying to remember just everything, and do stuff and service clients. It's just a lot for my brain to manage, and half of the time I'm exhausted and I feel like I'm just juggling. How have you, and I kind of know this, but for those that are watching, how have you managed to keep all of your children kind of happy, progressive, living life, maintain, looked after, and do business and be a wife. Like, you're juggling a lot of different balls. Do you ever get tired?
Yes. Yes. I'm tired. Yes, I definitely get tired. There's a blanket yes to that statement. I do get tired. I do realize that see, now you say I'm juggling a lot of balls, and sometimes in my mind I'm like, I don't feel like I'm doing that much at all, which sounds, I know it sounds beyond ridiculous, but I suppose it's because it's that thing of just putting everything in its place, and getting to understand my own stretch, my own capacity, my own reach. And actually, when I've reached that point, I'm just not going to do anymore. But it's a lot to do with all the stuff that you do anyway in business. So I kind of run our home a similar way to how we run our business. It's very much, everything is kind of planned out. I am forever going through those stupid school bulletins that come through my email. And I've now rerouted them to come to my company email, because I will miss them in my personal one. And I go through dates and I put things, just a lot of forward planning. But with the girls, I mean, you'd have to ask them if they're happy and
They look happy.
they look okay. Who knows? But yeah, you'll know. So I wrote a book, and in my book I talk a lot about their personality types. I talk about what I believe their giftings are. Being a woman of faith, I pray a hell of a lot. I spend probably 99% of my time when I'm not speaking praying in my head, because I'm always wondering, am I doing the right thing? Because it is a lot, to run a company, to write a book and be an author, and that has its own stuff. To have 4 children, to have a home and a husband, it's a lot. It is a lot, but it's that thing of putting everything in its place. I plan meals. I have a 4-week meal plan on the fridge. I have the plan of the girls' activities that change every term, because their after-school activity clubs will change. But I try and stick to the same day. So I know where all the children will be, at what time they should be there till. And I fit in, this sounds crazy, but I tend to fit in a lot of the stuff that I do around those timetables. For some people, what I'm saying is quite excessive. They will say, you plan your whole months of meals? Yeah, because I don't have time to be running backwards and forwards or forgetting to take the meat out, or that in our house, if I forget what the meal is or I don't shop, that could be £100 mistake of just like cat takeout or meat restaurant. That's an expensive thing to avoid. So I spend a lot of time planning. I plan birthdays. I've planned majority, my year's planned right now. So everything that's happened this year has been intentional. Birthday plans, my children's plans, down to what we're doing this Christmas. It's already booked, the holidays that I'm taking care of. August, sort of 6 weeks, and all that sort of stuff I think in advance. And that then helps me to just look at, what can I do with the time that's left for business, and being intentional with that time. So sometimes, like Easter, I mean, this Easter holiday has gone on forever. It felt like forever. I can't even pretend. 2 weeks for some, nearly 3 for a couple of my children. So I've had to think about how that's going to impact on the business. And then I deliberately have out of office on at particular times, especially during Easter. There's probably about 5 days straight where nobody was going to get hold of me. But I always plan, especially for the company, around what's in the calendar. I don't make promises to clients that I can't meet. So if they want to have breakfast meetings at 9 a.m, sorry, I have to do the school run. Meetings happen from 10:30 because I'm not rushing to get anywhere for 10 o'clock after doing the school run. I factor in the fact that I need my time. So I do the gym. I go to the gym, and I'll do that 3 times a week. And it's normally either in the middle of the day when it would be a lunch gap for me, so a lunch break, or at the end of the day when they've gone to bed, or really early, like on a Saturday morning when they're doing their stuff at the gym, they've got classes and stuff, I'll do a workout then. So a lot of the stuff that I do, I literally slot it in to fit around them, which I hope makes sense.
It just made me feel tired, and like, I need you to come to my house. I just thought of a new business for you. You need to be like a business mom guru that maps out the food plan, meal plans does the shopping list.
Do you know what's funny? I
think
am
that'd be great
actually,
too.
one of the things that I'm trying to develop, and it has been about time because I'm trying to do it all at once, so just stop and slow down a bit, has been that. So a couple of the downtime events that you've been to, the women's informal networking lunches and stuff, I'm changing the way I'm doing it. So it's going to be more learning, and I'm going to teach you how to do it yourself, and I will sit there with you.
Yeah, I don't want you to teach me, I just want you to do it.
I'll sit there with the women, because I realise a lot of people say, you do what? You plan a whole month of meals, and it's like, it's not hard. You just have to you have to just want to sit down and do it. You have to just do it.
I think that's my problem. Like, I just want somebody to come and sit with me. Just take that time, sit with me and tell me, because I know I can do a meal plan. It's not that hard, but it's just that accountability, isn't it? If someone come in and saying, do this, do that.
Yeah.
Do you ever
watch this space, it's coming soon.
Oh, sorry?
I said, watch this space, it's coming soon, don't worry.
Oh, yeah, I'll be a customer, don't worry. Do you ever feel guilty? Do you ever feel like I'm not putting in enough time with the business or the kids? Like, has there ever been a situation where maybe your kids had to come first and then the business, something suffered in the business, or the other way around, the business had to come first and then maybe one of your kids was upset?
Yeah, gosh, yeah. And I think that's an occupational hazard, unfortunately. I haven't got it all together just yet. But I know that there's been situations where I haven't been able to go to like these workshops at school. They always do them at like 2:00. School finishes at 3:30.
Always at 2.
Like, why is it 2? Do it like for 4. Come and us hang around, put on your
and
tea,
then I can do what we do, and then take me home. And I can't go at 2 and then leave her there because now she wants to come home, but I've got work to do.
Right. So things like that kind of have been a bit of a bugbear. But again, and this is just, I guess, suppose how we are as a family. We probably talk too much as a family, especially about the things that we do in business. The girls are fully aware of probably near enough every delivery thing that we do, down to the youngest to the oldest. They are fully aware of what we do, and sometimes they've seen the work that we do, or they've been to the events that we put on. So it's not a secret, but they also know that sometimes I can't be there, just like other mummies and daddies. Actually, you're going to go there, you're going to go to school, and you're going to see the same parents that can always be there because their life fits around that. But for me, sometimes it doesn't. So I make it clear to them. We don't keep secrets around things like that. But sometimes it can be really frustrating. And there's other times when you think, in business, like I want to go to like a networking event or an evening thing, and it's like, childcare for 1's okay. Childcare for 4, there's a different kettle of fish. I'm getting to a point where I can leave my oldest daughter to take care of them now because she's like 15 this year. So it's kind of like, it's going to be amazing. It's almost like a rites of passage that I can actually leave them in the house for a bit and be able to go and do stuff and come back knowing that they won't burn the house down. So but everything in its time. And I think in business as well, especially when you're self-employed or you've got a company that you run, you always strive and you want the best. And sometimes you want it now. You want the result today. But if I've seen anything, it's that some of the proposals that we prepared 3 or 4 years ago that we haven't been able to, even if we'd have won them then, we wouldn't have been able to deliver it. Sometimes it's better that you build yourself up a bit more, get yourself into a better position. Sometimes work with the needs of your family. It means slowing down. It might mean sacrificing. But imagine in 5 years' time, when the 5-year-old's now 10, the 15-year-old's 20, and they can all do their own thing. There'll be, options are endless at that point. So I think it's kind of putting it in perspective and having your vision. What's your vision? Know what you were aiming for and how realistic you can reach it in certain timescales.
The fact that I'm still on child number 1 and I haven't worked out when I'm having child number 2, I'm unable to think like that yet.
I don't know.
When the youngest is going to be 10.
Do you even think we didn't plan any of our children. They just came to just work with it. What I have made sure is that there's no more though. So that's sorted.
Sneaking up on me again.
There's no chance. No chance at all.
So taking it back to the running of the business, obviously you have staff now, and I'm going to guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first time you've been responsible for staff personally yourself?
In this company, yeah, I've been management in working for other people. So I've in every role I've had, I've been in management position. So I'm quite used to managing people. Nathan, on the other hand, isn't. He's never had to really manage people or teams. He's always been kind of fly solo. And even in first class legacy, other team members would manage the staff more so than Nathan would. He'd manage them, but not so hands-on. There was another person that would have all the stuff that should be in place. So for me, it's quite nice. I don't mind management at all. I don't mind managing staff and teams.
But how different is it managing your own staff to managing other people's staff?
Yeah, managing your own, because you're just like, God, don't mess this up. The one thing I sometimes is letting go and having trust. Trusting them is like the most important thing. But that's down to me. That's down to how we train them and how we encourage them, empower them, inspire them. It's not just about managing them, it's about leading them. And I have to be teachable myself. If they're going to follow me, they need to know that, oh, she's still learning, she's still trying to improve herself to enable them to be improved. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been hard. It's been sometimes like, oh God, should we just not bother with this and just do it myself? Just do it myself. Quicker and do it myself. But it wouldn't be quicker if I did it myself. It means that I'm just taking on more. So it's just made me think it's all back down to the processes, the policies, procedures and processes. It's having staff has made me have to think about how we respond to emails and write that down. Like in the past, I'd just do it all. Well, actually, they've got their own accounts. So how are we responding? What's the turnaround time? All of these things have been pretty epic, I have to say, but it's good. I like what I'm doing now. It's been a lot of, what's the phrase, norming, storming, performing, lots of that, lots of storming, lots of that. But it's good now. But it's different when it's your own, because you're just protective of your baby. You know, you will say in my head, I say, we worked so hard and long for this. I don't want to see anybody else come along and destroy it in a day. But as I said, that responsibility is on me to make sure that they are well versed and well trained in what we do.
Mm-hmm. If you were able to jump ahead 10 years, what do you envision yourself doing in the business, and what do you envision the business to look like, and what is it that you're doing today on a daily basis to kind of set that vision in motion?
Oh, 10 years, that's far. I could think of 5, I could think of 3. But 10 years, I completely see a new, almost platform-based organisation. I don't see us doing many things differently. I just think we'll be using a lot more technology to do what we do. I'm a big fan of technology and tech and stuff like that. So I'm always looking at ways where we can integrate that into what we're doing now. I think for me personally, I should think, what's that, 10 years? That's 45. Ooh, that's an old age. I should think by that age, I am looking at slowing down quite a lot. I'd like to think in 10 years, I am the CEO, or maybe, CEO, but I'm also sort of advising to other organizations. Business for me at that point is not doing what I'm doing now. It's not all of the hands-on tasks. It's very far away, much more strategic, much more hands-off, but also thinking about internationally where we are. So we would have moved from, we're moving, planning to move out regionally now, and then nationally by next year. So in 10 years' time, I'd like to think that would have been well and truly accomplished, and we'd have kitchen table talks and all products everywhere, and first class legacy being that legacy, young people leading it from the forefront and having a massive impact on what happens. And at that point, we're able to advise councils, local government on the issues around in these diverse and hard to engage communities. That's where I kind of see myself in 10 years, not this bit, but over there doing those things.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you really love tech. What tools would you suggest or recommend for people, for women who are running businesses or managing households? What kind of are some of your go-to tools or apps?
Oh gosh, let me pick up my phone. So, for business, we use an app called Monday.com, and it's almost a project management tool. But you can literally have all your teams, or you could be a one-man band and use this. You don't have to have many people or anybody, but it will help you to put all your contracts, all your deliverables, into different boards. You can match it against time. You can set deadlines. You can put cost value to things. For us, it's a really good way of integrating all the different projects that we deliver and all the different services and all the different suppliers that deliver on those services, because it's very difficult to keep communication up when you do it, when you've got sort of 5 things happening at once and 10 different people doing it. You're not going to have time to have a meeting with each person to update you on what they've done, but through Monday they can send their updates. I mean, we have team meetings and we don't even write minutes. They just go straight onto Monday. Everybody can see what everybody's doing. So I'd definitely recommend that. Another thing I would recommend is QuickBooks, or as some kind of financial management tool. This like saves, I cannot tell you how much time it saves me. It's like a click of a button. Everything's there. You can create budgets. You can watch your spend against those budgets. You can do your VAT. You can do everything on QuickBooks. And for small companies, I think it's a must. Tax and all that stuff's becoming digital and online now. It is now. So you need to have some kind of software. QuickBooks you can do on your phone. It's so easy. I can send an invoice from my phone. I don't have to go onto a laptop to do it. I would also recommend for a lot of the stuff that I do in terms of the household, a simple calendar app. I know it sounds like Calendly, or we have Google Calendar, so me and Nathan share our calendar and he can see everything I'm doing. It's very colourful, I might add. There's like 5 different colours for different things. So family things, my own personal things, his personal things, internal meetings that we're having just between us, external staff meetings that we might have. And so you can kind of track and see where everyone is and what everyone's doing. You're not trying to think of it off the top of your head. Also, the good thing about that is that you can sync that to Monday.com. So if you really, really don't know what you're doing, or you can't find the notes of the meeting you just had, it will probably be all on your board on Monday.com, which just saves you everything. It's just everything. Yeah.
No, thanks for that. And then finally, 3 pieces of advice you'd give to a woman who wants to start her business or maybe join a partner or husband's business in a senior position. What advice would you give?
Okay, advice. My advice would be know why you want to do it, because that's the only reason why you're going to do it every day. Why do you want to join your business? For me, my why is not just my family, but I've got personal things that I want to do. In first class, because of the type of work we do and who we work with, I'm all about overhauling systems and changing behavior of big systems and groups of people. So that's my why. It's like we've got to make things better for the next generation. That's my why, and that includes my children. So know why. That's adamant. Advice to please talk to each other. I know it sounds crazy, but the more communication you can have, the better it will be. And even if it's sometimes asking those questions that you don't really want to hear the answer to, it's vital. It's about being transparent, having your expectations and laying it all out on the table, because I'm sure you probably heard this from other people that spoke. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's not just like, oh, here today, millions pounds tomorrow, and it's only and it isn't as terrifying as a lot of people would make out. It just means that you have to have a why. You have to have a plan. Think about what you're doing. And the last thing I would do is get good advice. Surround yourself with people who've been there, who've done it, who, even if they're on the journey themselves, can encourage you. So you've got a bit of accountability, but you've got someone to aspire to. someone to ask questions to look up to. There's lots of people that say they're entrepreneurs and they're in business, but they're not actually doing it. Talk to people who are day in, day out doing it. People like yourself who know what business looks like, who know the blood, sweat and tears and the tiredness you have to go through, who will tell you the truth and not paint this pretty picture, not put a Instagram poster up of, you know, catching flights, not feelings, and traveling the world as a new entrepreneur. It's great, but is that the reality really? Have they told you the 10-year process it took them to be able to do that? So those will be my 3 tips. Communicate, have a why, and get advice.
Fab. Thank you so much. If people want to find out more about First Class Legacy or Sabrina Dennis, especially your book, where can they go and find out more information?
So you can find out more about me on www.sabrinadennis.org. That's my website. There you can find the link to A Piece of the Pie, which is my book. It's available on Amazon, so you can click through there and you get it on Amazon. For more information about First Class Legacy, it's www.fclegacy.co.uk. And of course, we're on social media. So I'm at just S Dennis on everything. And we are at FC Legacy on everything else as well.
All right, fab. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. And if you're watching and you've really enjoyed that as much as I have, make sure you click that like button, write a comment if anything that has resonated with you today, or if you've experienced any of the things that Sabrina has discussed today, and share with anyone else in your networks that you think may find this conversation valuable. And thank you for watching. And remember, as always, think big, take action, and keep pushing. Sabrina, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Take care.